If you think that you are going to be able to just move abroad, you'll find a remote job, don't need to worry about those sort of details to begin with. That's a really bad idea in my opinion. And for so many expats that I've seen come here to Florianópolis and they end up leaving because they couldn't find a job or they are not financially stable, which baffles me. When I was 31, 32, around this age, I decided that I was going to put together a plan for me to move abroad before I was 40. I decided to start researching all the ways that I can support myself financially, the implications of moving abroad, which include things like security, taxes, cost of living, visas, renting a house, buying a house, building a house, schools, etc. Because if you fail to prepare, then prepare to fail. I decided to draw up a short list of countries and places which I would start researching, and the top contenders we would go and scope them out. We would actually visit the places we are looking to live in. Let's start with the main active income ideas, because this is the most important part when it comes to planning your escape from your own country. If you think that you are going to be able to just move abroad and it will all fall into place when you get there, you'll find a job or you'll find a remote job, don't need to worry about those sort of details to begin with. That's a really bad idea in my opinion. There's so many expats that I've seen come here to Florianópolis and they end up leaving because they couldn't find a job or they are not financially stable, which baffles me. I find it incredible that somebody would uproot their family and move across the other side of the world without any kind of prospects when it comes to work, and they have no idea about taxes and things like that. And it's just, I think it's piss poor planning if you ask me. And no wonder they ended up having to leave because they couldn't afford to live here. Maybe if you end up going to live in one of the cheapest countries in the world, then yeah, maybe you can scrape by with a pension or whatever. I would find it very difficult to believe that you could live a high quality life here in Florianópolis and get by on the bare minimum. As you can see on the screen in front of me, I've got my main active income ideas. Now, what I mean by that is like what I'm going to actively be doing to earn that income. So it could be a job, a business, or whatever. This was like 10 years ago when I started this, and it was just me brainstorming and putting ideas into the spreadsheet. So for all the business owners out there, you have to make sure that your company can operate without you being physically there before you move. Obviously, you can't try and systemize things once you've already moved, because you'll just be constantly fighting fires. You'll be called back, and there's no way you're going to be able to put the systems and procedures into place to allow the company to work in your absence, not without your input, as long as you've got an internet connection and you can still orchestrate things from abroad. But you can't try and transition to doing this after you've moved. It has to be well before you move. I started to systemize and, how would you say, remote proof my businesses at least 5 years prior. So I transitioned away from physical projects that I was working on and made sure that everything that I do could be done by a laptop. Those who work in employment for a company, then obviously you need to check if your company will allow you to work abroad and remotely. If not, then you need to try and find a remote job before, not after. Income needs to be secured and in place before you move. Do not leave it into the hands of fate that you will find a job when you get there. Depending on where you move to, if you move to a country with lower salaries, then you need to take that into consideration, that you will be earning a lot less than what you would earn in your home country. I could not live here in Brazil on earning reals. I don't think it would be possible for me to support a family here. I don't know how the Brazilians do it. Obviously, if you're moving to somewhere that has higher wages, such as from the UK to Australia, for example, then you can throw caution to the wind a little bit, I suppose. In the end, I just started listing particular income making activities that I could go: remote work, business coaching, YouTube channel, a Colombian property income, sell ebook, yeah, why not, e-commerce, building materials, MEP. These are my specialities, by the way: digital ads, CRO, conversion rate optimization, coaching gigs, non-exec director. So these are the main active income ideas, and here's the meat of the spreadsheet. This is my places tab. A lot of these moved up and down in time. For example, Florianópolis wasn't the first place we went to. Punta Cana was. This was number one, and Florianópolis was down here somewhere, because I actually was thinking about going to Spain or Uruguay before Florianópolis. As you can see here, column A is rank. Then we've got the city or town within the country, security in terms of how safe it is there to live, taxes, cost of living per month, visa ease, cost of rent a 4-bed house, ease to do business for me as from the UK, currency exchange, primary schools and high schools. Let's look at Florianópolis to begin with, because I live here. And by the way, I haven't edited any of this. I've left it as it was when I left the UK. So country, Brazil. Security, good, but still have to be cautious. No cartels, at least. We was thinking of living in Mexico and Colombia, because my wife's from Colombia. My wife was like, I don't want to be anywhere where there's cartels and that sort of stuff, which is fair enough now, especially with kids. Taxes, all worldwide income tax. So that gets an orange. Somewhere green would be somewhere that's like a tax haven or has a very tax-friendly regime. If we scroll down here to Panama, you can see here, none on foreign owned. Yeah, that's green. But then when you go down to look at somewhere like Spain, taxes are bad. Dominican Republic and taxes. As long as you can show that you didn't do the work inside the country, you'll be fine. But what they could do, potentially, is say to you, because you're physically inside the country, tapping on your computer, you're doing the work here in Panama or in Dominican Republic. Therefore, we are going to tax you like a local. But it's a grey area. Let's go down to Uruguay. Taxes not earned on foreign income for 10 years. So as you can see, there's a variety of different tax regimes for me to research and just as to whether I was willing to pay that much tax. There's people that I speak to in Brazil, and when I ask them about their taxes, how do they report their taxes, they say, oh, I'm not tax resident here in Brazil. And I've said to them, yeah, but how long have you lived here for? He says, oh, 5 years, 5 years or something like that. And it's like, you do realize after 6 months, it doesn't matter what you say or what you think, you are tax resident here in Brazil. It doesn't matter whether you're tax resident in America or in the UK. You can be tax resident in 2 places at the same time. This is something that people skip over, and I think bury their head in the sands about, hoping that it'll be okay. Spend a lot of time on this column when you're researching places to make sure that you won't come unstuck when you end up moving. Cost of living per month, that's £2 signs. That means it's medium, and that's true. That's not far off the mark, because there's some things that are cheap here, but there's some things that are expensive here, and that is property. Visa ease, wife through Mercosur residency fairly easily. And yeah, that's right. So as you can see, I put a little note in here. If you're bringing more than 2 dependents, you need to show $1,000 income per month. Blah, blah, blah. So basically, because my wife is from Colombia, Brazil will allow her to apply for the Mercosur visa, which allows anybody from the Mercosur countries or an associate member like Colombia, because Colombia is not a full Mercosur member, but still she's allowed to claim residency here in Brazil and bring us, my sons and me, on a family reunion visa. That turned out to be spot on, and it was very easy because I employed a lawyer here to take care of the process for me. It was a little bit of a ball ache having to get all the documents postilled and stamped in the UK and here in Brazil and translated, but still, as easy as you're going to get it. There's worse countries out there for getting a visa, in my opinion. So for me, that was a green. Cost about a 4-bed house a month, $1,500 a month. That's dollars. And that's about right, because we pay around at the moment for our 3-bed inside a condominium around $1,000 a month. So 1,500 is not being too optimistic. It was correct. Easy to do business. -3 time zone is agreeable, but no chance of a quick flight home to see clients or whatever. So yeah, for me to go back to the UK to take care of business, to see clients, or to firefight something that's happening where I have to go and be there physically, it's no way I'm going to be able to get back home quickly. It's 24 hours from door to door, because I have to go from Florianópolis to Sao Paulo to London, and London to my base in the Midlands. So actually, when I came to Brazil the first time to scope the place out, I brought my laptop with me and I carried on working here just to see how it would actually work in real life. It was only 3 hours behind the UK, which is absolutely perfect. I could align with my team to a certain degree. But when I went to Colombia to visit my wife's family, again, took my laptop with me, worked from there, that was different kettle of fish, where I was waking up and I was already 6 hours behind, because Colombia is 5 hours behind the UK, but with the British summertime, it would go back even further to 6 hours. So I was waking up at, say, I don't know, 7 o'clock, and my phone was blowing up. There were people crying out for my attention, for me to make payments and things like that, customers complaining, I don't know, whatever. And that was so stressful, waking up to that in the morning. I don't even want to imagine what it'd be like if I tried to live in somewhere like Puerto Vallarta in
Mexico, which I think is something like 10 hours behind the UK, so a full work day behind. So that would mean I would have to wake up really early to align with my team, which is not ideal for me. So that is why Florianópolis and Brazil was a great choice, and why I always said that I prefer to live somewhere like Florianópolis or in Spain or Portugal. So doing business and synchronizing with my team wouldn't be this daily nightmare that I have to live through.
The exchange, excellent. It's like nearly 7 real to the pound, and it was higher last year. In Punta Cana, it was decent, and then Spain would be bad because it's a euro, and yeah, you're not getting nowhere near as much as the pound to the currency of Brazil. Primary schools cost per child £270 a month, approx, so 3,140 a year. So for 2 kids, it's around 6 grand to 9 grand a year. That's bang on the money. I'm right there, because that is how much I have to pay per child here for private school. And I mean, yeah, you can send your kids to public school here, but it's not a good idea from what I've heard. They have strikes so often, and the quality of the education is not so good either. We got down to Punta Cana, £300 a year, £3,600 a year. That was about right as well for the primary schools. And when I say primary, I mean elementary, for the North Americans watching this. High school costs per child, probably similar or more expensive than primary. Yeah, it's true, where this was a bad one, because this is what I found out when we went to live there, is that it's $8,000 per year to put them in a high school in Punta Cana, a decent one, a good one. $8,000 a year per child. So, yeah, that's a red. Cost of nannies and cleaners. Now, this is up there in the top 10, because I said to my wife, when we move abroad, one of the perks will be that I will be able to afford to pay for more help around the house, to help you with the chores and helping me with the kids. Someone takes care of the cleaning, so you don't have to. She can live a life of leisure more here in Brazil. At the moment, we have a cook who comes once a week and a cleaner who comes twice a week. So it turns out that this was good to research, because labor is cheaper here, much cheaper than the UK, and for sure cheaper than in the US or Canada or Australia or anywhere in Western Europe or whatever. For instance, a cleaner here in Brazil, you can get them cheap around 100 real, which is around £20 or $30 a day. They work 6 to 7 hours. But the one we actually pay 350 real, because she's so good, she's so fast, because someone comes in and gets done and they're gone, because we don't want people like hanging around all day, being slow, doing a sloppy job. So 350 a day is decent for people here in Brazil. Gran Canaria was red, because it's probably going to be about the same as the UK, probably a bit cheaper, but not by much. Flight time and airport, yeah, this is a big one for us. 24 hours door to door at least, red for Florianópolis. Green, Punta Cana, direct flight to Manchester, great. Gran Canaria, 4.5 direct flight, so that's why it's green. Healthcare, the public hospitals are all right, but it depends what happens. The hospitals here in Santa Catarina are considered much, much better than, say, in the north of Brazil. So it does depend where in Brazil you live. I went to the hospital near the airport, and that was superb. I went there and I was coughing and I was in a really bad state. So within an hour and a half, I was processed, I was x-rayed. The doctor told me and said, you've got pneumonia. I was given a prescription for antibiotics, but that doesn't mean to say every time it's going to be like that. And it's a good idea to get private health insurance for sure. But this is where I got wrong. Actually, it's cheaper in Punta Cana than it is in Brazil. Private healthcare in Brazil is expensive. So maybe not for US citizens, because you're used to paying, but not for people like us in the UK that have a free healthcare system. Here we got time zones. Yeah, that's all good. Amenities, city has everything. Punta Cana has everything. Sports, yes, kite surfing, martial arts, wakeboarding, this is all green. Cost of hobbies, private class is good, cheaper than the UK. Beaches, fantastic. Good but cold during the winter, that's true. Weather, good, can be rainy and cloudy at times, can be muggy. So yeah, that's true. Heat and humidity can be oppressive, hurricanes and lots of clouds during that season. Visiting family, yeah, that's bad from here. That's definitely a red. Language, Portuguese, yes, put that as orange because my wife speaks Spanish, so obviously the ideal language would have been Spanish, but that's another reason why we chose Punta Cana to begin with.
Unfortunately, I just haven't got the time to go through this entire spreadsheet on every single row and every single column, because literally it would take hours to do so. If you're interested in getting a copy of the spreadsheet, just put a comment down and I'll reply to you with my email.
So I'll put all of this onto a spreadsheet, and this was before AI, so it'd be even better now with AI, because you could fill all this in and ask AI to help you analyze it. When I was deciding where I wanted to live, I went all over the world looking for places like near the sea. That was one of my criteria, that it needed to be near the sea. I've been living in England all my life, here in the centre, and I love going to the beach. Another thing as well, that you might be wondering, why didn't I look at Thailand and places like that? Because my wife was like, I don't want to live
on the other side of the world to South America, because yeah, from there to there is literally the other side of the world. That left the Western Hemisphere only. So we wanted to live either somewhere in Europe in one of these regions or somewhere in Latin America. We didn't want to live in the US because that didn't suit us, and we got no connection to the US either, but definitely got a connection to Latin America. Obviously, my connection to Europe is being British. That was how we narrowed it down. Once I knew where on the map I could look and where I shouldn't look, I literally went through the map like this, and I was going, yeah, so here's decent on the Algarve. Let's add that to my list. Cadiz, oh, that sounds like a beautiful city. Punta Cana looks a beautiful place. Look at those beaches there. So, this is what I was doing. I put a pin on the map there. Once I narrowed it down into places, I actually went to different websites and took screenshots of how much it cost to go back home and back to Cali in Colombia, where my wife is from. I just did a bit more of a deep dive in terms of housing prices. Did a few versus places where you would do a comparison here. Cost of living in Dominican Republic is 5% more expensive than Florianópolis, and I would definitely encourage people to do this, where you do a comparison with different places in the world. I got all this stuff from different websites. So these are the best websites to do your research from, in no particular order. We've got Numbeo, and with all these websites as well, you can compare cities and countries together. So for instance, here we can compare Florianópolis with Manchester in the UK, or in the US if you want, wherever. So you can use Numbeo. You can go to mylifeelsewhere.com, Expatistan, livingcost.org, and this one as well, nomads.com. You can also use maps like this as well to find areas which will be kinder on your wallet than, say, moving from the UK into Australia, which is jumping out the pan into the fire, or you can move from the US into Latin America and live a cheaper lifestyle. Climate in Florianópolis, I took screenshots of what you can see. And where are we at the minute? Let's have a look how accurate we are. So we're in June at the minute, and it's comfortable. It is, it's true. It's dry, yes. And it's clear and overcast 50% of the time. All this is good research, and it is 100% true, as far as I'm concerned, with my lived experience.
So before moving anywhere, weather is a massive factor you just can't ignore. So I used WeatherSpark to directly compare my current location in the UK, which was around Birmingham, and then I would compare it with somewhere like Florianópolis. So you just plug in two places and it gives you a side-by-side comparison of the year-round temperatures, humidity and cloud cover, so you know exactly what you're stepping into. As we can see here, the weather between the UK in general and Florianópolis in Brazil is much better when it comes to temperatures. So as we come down, you can see things like how comfortable it should be where you're thinking of moving to. And yeah, this is a great tool to check out the weather before you go with your home city, with your chosen area that you're looking to emigrate to. Next, you need to check for natural disaster risks. So this is a great website for that. You can actually go per country and look at what that country is susceptible to in terms of natural disasters. So let's have a look at Colombia, because Colombia had an earthquake today in my wife's city, Cali. So let's have a look what it says here. Yes, it's got that. So you can check for this kind of stuff and plan accordingly. You can use this information and add it to your spreadsheet so you can weigh things up as to whether you want to live in a place that regularly has these type of occurrences happening. What I'm trying to drive home here is that this Plan 40 was accumulation of years and years of research. I didn't build this spreadsheet over a weekend. This was built over years, adding a little piece in here, or when I've got a bit of time on my hands, I would then start doing a bit of research from somewhere. I've got some things wrong, but I got most of it right. And that was down to the fact that I created a spreadsheet like this and I prioritized the most important things in life, which are security, taxes, and the cost of living, etc. I think the beauty of this at the minute, though, is that you can create a spreadsheet like this and just ask Gemini to help you with your decision making, but don't outsource your decision making to AI. No, you should be doing all this yourself, so it builds up a picture in your mind. Another thing I would do as well is go through it with your spouse, show them the research that you've done, or even ask them to help you add to it so they can do their own research as well. Put all your ideas, the places you want to go onto the spreadsheet, talk through it with your wife, your husband, whatever, your family, your kids, and ask them, what do you want from the move? Would you like to live near the beach? Would you like to live near the mountains, near rivers? What sort of things would you like to do? Because if they say to you, oh, we would like to go surfing, then obviously the center of Brazil is going to be no good. Or if they say, oh, I want to live somewhere close to family. For people in the US, you probably want to live somewhere in Mexico or the Caribbean. You won't want to go and live in the bottom of South America like we do here in Brazil. Or you might say that we don't want to live somewhere that's hot all the time. Okay, well, then you want to go somewhere like where we live, which gives you a break for 3 or 4 months a year where it actually gets pretty cold sometimes. There's one thing that you can take away from this video is how to make your move abroad stick and be permanent, rather than just end up as a failed experiment where you have to go back to your home country with your tail between your legs. Please like and subscribe. It gives me more motivation to keep creating videos like this. I hope that was of use, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.